Dope, 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 let's get it. I'm a trapping fanatic, that shit automatic, so I cannot turn it on or off. Bitches all on my dick, then she hop on my dick, I'm like, why you keep hopping on and off? Yo, bitch all on my dick, she be doing the most. I tell her, little bitch, she so extra. And my gun up on me, but not run up on me. Niggas, they wanna fight, they some wrestlers.
A woman in Japan gives birth to a healthy baby boy. His strength is insane from birth. He's regarded as someone who could become insanely strong with just his base power. Inko raises her son with respect for others around him. She teaches him what it truly means to live a life. Izuku grows up much differently here as he has access to ki, and it comes on early in his life. Inko knows her son will be very great one day, so she supports him fully. Izuku is inspired by the pro hero All Might and his own Saiyan pride. Saving those in danger, it's almost like a dream that he wants to make a reality. As the years pass, Izuku takes on more and more, training that is. Sure, he was part human, half coming from his dad's side, but he was always drawn to danger and combat. Being around his mom, who was constantly training and fighting, really helped hone his battle spirit. In school, he has only one rival that competes with him, Bakugo, a friend he's known since he was younger. Each of them has their own sort of arrogance, but it's backed up by their quirks. They were always friends, and this is where Izuku gets his nickname. Years keep on going by as both boys plan to get into UA high school together. Once hearing this, Inko is glad her son wants to be a hero, so she tells him about a special place that only her family, their family, has access to, as it's a training room. He'll have more access to it once he becomes older. For now, he's given weighted clothing to wear throughout his life to make everything harder. Soon, Izuku becomes 14 and has about one more year before he takes the entrance exam to get into UA. Izuku, knowing this, doesn't attend school as much. He focuses on passing, so he studies a lot and trains with his mother. This will be the year that he's actually able to go into this room, which was completely white. Inko tells her son the legend of their people. If he keeps training, he could become a Super Saiyan, a being with unimaginable power. You can become one, just like your grandfather. He was a brilliant warrior who was a prodigy from birth. So, keep training. Inko kicks her son to the ground where he struggles to get up. Good. That's enough for today. The two head outside the room and now sit in their living room. Mom, are you a Super Saiyan? Well, I can't say I actually am, but I've come close twice. It's a power that responds to your emotions. The first time I got close was when my friend was killed by a villain right in front of me. But I was taken from the area by All Might, who had saved me before I could do anything. Wait, you were saved by the #1 hero? Yeah, but that was long before he was #1. And the second time was when villains attacked our city and many others. The pros were scattered and outnumbered, so I jumped in to help them. I was surrounded as it felt like a war zone. In that moment of need, to save people and save myself, my hair flared up and sparked a new color. Rage filled my mind, and I was able to defeat those around me because of my anger. But right after, I soon passed out. I've never been able to go back and access that power because I don't have the need to. I'm raising you. I don't have the same anger like I did in that moment, and I believe that's the reason. Izuku looks at his mother, calling her amazing, before heading into his room, where he goes into his own bathroom, and he draws his own bath. He sits down, looking at the ceiling, and then at his hand. A power that comes when I need it most. I don't think I'll be able to access Super Saiyan anytime soon. So why don't I work on mastering a different power? Izuku watches his tail rise from the water and he moves it around. Yeah, this will definitely give me an edge during the test. We have a short time skip here to the day that All Might saves Deku. He was walking under the bridge heading home through a shortcut when the slug monster attacked him. Izuku dodged his attacks and sent it into the wall. He raises his hand, preparing to launch a ki blast, but is stopped. All Might moves his hand down and tells the citizen that he's here to handle it. Izuku gets to watch firsthand the #1 hero of Japan in action. He takes down the villain with ease, and he actually signs Izuku's notebook. Thanks, but can I ask you something? All Might turns around with curiosity. Is it possible for us to spar for a second? I just want to see how much further my goal is really away from me. All Might doesn't know what to say as he sees the tail of this child. A Saiyan. This family truly is perplexing. This is where we get a short explanation of what it means to be a Saiyan in the My Hero universe. They technically aren't born with quirks. Everything they can do is because their genetics were modified a long time ago by All For One, who did so to one man. So, Izuku is still technically quirkless in this timeline as well. All Might tells him to now follow him. He jumps to a rooftop far away and waits for only a second as Izuku lands there as well from flying. As the two land and All Might sits down, he enters his weak form, coughing up blood. Are you okay? What happened? This was the injury I sustained long after fighting All For One. Izuku knows the battle that he's talking about, but he didn't know he got injured from it. He would also listen to All Might's speech of what it truly means to be a hero and the symbol of peace. Izuku smirks and stands near the ledge with a fire in his eyes. I want to save as many people as possible. Just look at the city that we're in. All those people down there live different lives and have their own problems. The last thing they should have to worry about is their safety. I want to be a hero that can save everyone around me, even the villains. All Might's eyes widen as the sunset surrounds the boy, almost making him glow in a way. What do you mean, the villains? Well, I believe the villains can be saved as well. Of course I do. I wish my mom was here. She'd explain it to you better. But you saved her. So, you're my idol and hers. She's always told me that villains have no choice to become evil, as the world has shut them out. The world blocks out their cries for help, so they look to the pro heroes for saving. Becoming a villain is one of the biggest cries out for help, because they don't know what else to do. So don't worry, All Might. I'm going to get into UA and become a pro hero, and then I'll save all the people and villains I can, and I won't turn back on anyone. And this is a promise I put on my Saiyan pride. Izuku's energy begins to charge up as he becomes even stronger in this moment. Ki flows around his body gracefully as he watches the sun begin to set. Izuku tilts his head to All Might. My name is Izuku Midoriya. I'll be the one to score the highest on the entrance exams, so make sure you're watching out for me, All Might. Izuku flies from the rooftop, back under the bridge to collect the rest of his things. All Might stands up, thinking it was perfect that the two of them met. That boy could be the next one to inherit One for All. It might just be perfect that he's a Saiyan too. He might be able to keep up with this enormous power. An explosion then goes off in the city, causing All Might to touch his pocket. He has a hole in it. I dropped him. He begins to run down the stairs to make it to where the explosion is, where he sees the flames on the buildings and the slug monster holding a blonde kid. All Might wants to do something, but holds his side, remembering his time limit for the day is about to be up. This is when he feels that same pressure. He turns his head slightly to see Izuku walk through the crowd with keys surrounding his body. The officers try to stop him, but he vanishes from his current position and appears behind the slug monster holding Bakugo. It's just like you to cause a scene, Kachan. Yeah, whatever, nerd. Just help me take him down. He's really a pain in the ass. You got it. Izuku flies back and gets on the other side of the villain. Bakugo and Izuku each hold up one of their hands, launching an attack. They both had their own ways to cause destruction, and with just this one attack from each of them, the villain was defeated. Bakugo here is much stronger because of Izuku's constant pushing him and training with him. The two teens walk over to one another, and Izuku puts his arm around his friend. We're pretty cool, right? Whatever, just get your hands off of me. The crowd erupts seeing the two young heroes in action. News reporters swarm the boys and ask them questions, with one of the biggest ones being, what school do these young heroes plan to go to? At the same time, they announce UA High School. As Izuku heads home, he walks into someone who stands in his path. It was All Might. I was going to wait to see how you did on the entrance exams, but I think I've seen enough. Izuku, I want you to inherit my power and surpass me as Japan's #1 hero. Izuku falls to one knee, bowing to All Might with tears in his eyes. He tries to speak, but the words aren't able to form out of his mouth. All that can come out is thank you. All Might hands him a piece of his hair, and Izuku backs away for a moment. What do you want me to do with that? You'll have to eat it to gain my power. Wait, really? Yes, you need a DNA transfer to truly gain my power. Well, do I have to eat it by itself, or is it okay if I wash it down with some other food? All Might nods and watches Izuku pull out a small capsule. He clicks it, and a bag of food comes out of thin air. Izuku eats the hair with the rest of his food, as he had pasta, a burger, fries, chicken, and a gallon of water. Alright, I feel much better now. All Might then tells him to meet him here tomorrow morning, as Izuku nods, heading home. His mother grabs him once he's inside and hugs him tight. You were amazing. I knew I raised you right, and I'm sure you'll become an even greater pro hero than I was. Izuku hugs her back, thanking her. The next day, early in the morning, Izuku heads to the location and sees the dirty beach. For your first step in mastering my power, your body needs to be ready to handle it. So, I'll need you to clean the beach. Izuku does so in just one day, leaving many more months to train. They were way ahead of schedule, so the next day, All Might begins to show him how to utilize the quirk. Focus on a glass of water in your mind. Most people have a glass that's full already because of their quirk, but yours is basically empty. So pour one for all into that glass, but do not overfill it. Just pour a small amount, and work with that first. Izuku nods, closing his eyes, envisioning what he's told. Lightning suddenly begins to spark around his body, and then continues to surge as he's able to access a small portion of one for all. All Might is shocked. He has no visible strain at all, and he's using just 5%. Okay, now let's see how you do in combat. All Might throws a punch, and Izuku dodges, throwing his own. The two go back and forth for a while until Izuku loses. Not bad for your first run. I was able to use 100% pretty early, but this one for all is much stronger than the one that I possessed. Izuku nods, standing up once again. Alright, I'm ready. Let's go again. All Might and Izuku train like this for months, as he also does training with Bakugo and training at home with his mother. 10 months quickly pass by, as Izuku is much stronger than ever before. He flies to school and descends down to the gate. He walks in seeing Bakugo, but trips as he waves to him. He starts to fall but is saved. He turns seeing a girl next to him. Oh, thanks. How do you plan to become a hero and you're already getting saved? Shut up. Anyway, thanks. I'm Izuku. I'm Uraraka. The two smile, heading into the building with Bakugo as the three of them sit together. The written test portion of this exam is pretty easy for Izuku. And now comes the practical exam. Before the gates even open, Izuku's ki starts overflowing. As soon as they do, he flies, leaving a path of destroyed robots behind him. He launches into the skies, and with his hands above his head, he launches down ki blasts that destroy robots all around the fake city. He then goes back down and uses One for All to rip through them, as electricity would appear on his body. He punches 3 robots, and they destroy an entire building. After about 5 minutes, a strange alarm goes off, and this is where we see the 0-point bot. He's all mine. Izuku quickly grabs Uraraka and gets her to a safe building. He then jumps into the air and floats in front of it. The robot keeps taking steps towards him, and he begins to charge and attack. A silhouette of his ancestor appears next to him during this as he charges it. And this is when the robot is about halfway down the road, as Izuku begins yelling, and the yellow lightning bursts from his palms as he would shout out, "Final Flash!" The attack rips through the 0-point bot and the ground below, leaving nothing behind but a crater in the fake city. All those who were watching dropped to their knees as Izuku stood there, heavily breathing. Not bad at all. This attack still drains me. The test quickly concludes and the applicants go home. The teachers, principal, and some pro heroes review the practical exams later that day, and they all agree he is the most impressive out of all of them. But he needs to learn some restraint. In his head, All Might, who was there, states that was him holding back, but they'd figure that out later. The first day of school approaches, and Izuku flies to UA, landing in front of the gate. News reporters ask him questions, but he dashes inside to avoid them. Then, he heads to Class 1A, where Bakugo was being yelled at for his feet being on the desk. Izuku sits down next to him, but sits on top of his own desk. Ida yells at the two of them, but they ignore him and talk to each other instead. "You're such a freak of nature. I didn't even know you had that type of attack already." "Well, I figured I couldn't use it on you, so how would I tell you?" "That was the best time for me to perform it anyway, but it still left me pretty drained." Denki and Kirishima walk over and ask the two of them if they already know each other. "Yeah, we've always gone to the same school. Bakugo's my rival, as we've always competed with each other to be the number one in everything. But next comes the number one hero. All of you, take your seats and shut your mouths." Aizawa stands up, introducing himself as our homeroom teacher. The students listen to him talk before he tells them to go put on their gym uniforms and meet them outside. Once they do, he tosses a ball to Izuku. "Use your quirk to throw it as far as you can." "Alright. Is there a certain distance I'm aiming for, or just..." "No. Just throw it." Izuku grabs the ball with All Might watching from behind a corner. "Should I use One for All, or just my base strength?" "No. I came here to be the best, so I need to push myself." Lightning surges around his body as he activates One for All. The power coming off of him sends his classmates flying back. All Might notes he's doing pretty good with controlling 20%, and he's able to hold it for long amounts now, thanks to that body. Izuku throws the ball, and Aizawa holds up his phone, reading the infinity symbol, meaning the ball somehow reached space. The class then does their test, with Mineta coming in last overall. He then tells them that it was a joke. He just wanted to see how badly they would push themselves, and it worked. Aizawa walks around the corner and sees All Might. "So, how do you like the new class?" "I think they're a bunch of kids who don't know what it takes to become a pro hero. This lifestyle puts a lot of pressure on heroes like us, but I'll do my job to apply the same pressure to them so they can adjust better. I know some of them will crack, but many others will excel and reach further heights, so we'll see." All Might keeps watching Izuku, who stands proudly, and at the end of the day, he flies home and decides to ask his mother about something. This causes them to go into the training room for just a couple of hours. The next day, their class is taught by All Might. Suit up like a pro and meet me on ground level. All the students go out, and Deku's hero outfit is much different. It's a Saiyan armor made by his mother. This was more like the Cell Games armor than anything. I was going to give him a gi, but he isn't a martial artist, so I feel like it made no sense for him to have one right now. The teams are made, and they are the same as usual, as the first two teams to participate are Bakugo and Ida against Izuku and Uraraka. Izuku begins stretching as they walk down the halls. Then he stops as he raises his arm to the ceiling. As he does so, a ki blast shoots through multiple floors, and Izuku jumps forward with Uraraka floating behind him. As he sees Bakugo, he uppercuts him. The two begin fighting but don't even use their quirks. Izuku slams his fist into the face of his opponent, and Bakugo counters with a knee to his chest. The two trade blows with everyone in the, camera room watching confused. This is supposed to be a test, but each of them seems so thrilled to face each other in combat. Izuku goes for another punch, but his tail will then grab him and flips Bakugo over before he could do anything else. And then before he could hit the wall, he uses an explosion to propel him back into the battle. Izuku blocks his punch, but is sent through another wall, and it crashes down on him. Bakugo stands on top of the rubble, looking down at the buried Izuku. Get up. We both know this isn't over. Bakugo's face is then grabbed by Izuku, who throws him across the room. He's able to recover, but is not able to see Izuku's leg before it kicks him into the wall. Izuku dodges the next explosion and raises his own hand to Bakugo's face. He shoots a ki blast point blank and sends him to the bottom floor unconscious. He dusts off his shoulder and looks down. Not bad, Bakugo, but it'll take more than that to win a fight with me on equal terms. Izuku flies up to the highest floor where the bomb was and where Ida was facing Uraraka. Uraraka was actually struggling with his speed as the two teamed up, and Izuku broke one of the pillars as she grabbed it with her quirk. She swung it down at him, but he was still dodging each time. He goes to dodge one more time, but instead, Izuku grabs hold of him. Do it now! She swings down the pillar on both of them, sending each of them down a couple levels. Uraraka secures the bomb and Izuku stands up, with his armor really having no injuries or cracks at all. Not bad for our first test, right? She comes down and high-fives him, as she tells him good job, as now All Might tells him to come back to the room. After they review, the next teams go and do the same as many follow this pattern. Over in an unknown location, Villain sat in a bar. So, he teaches at UA High School now. How interesting. The next day is even more interesting, as reporters are seen outside the school and interview students as they head inside. Their day would go as normal, as at lunch, Izuku finds an empty table to sit down at. Uraraka, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Mina would sit down with him. Kirishima turns to Izuku. Where's your food at? Izuku then pulls out a capsule and clicks it. A bunch of food appears on the table as he begins eating all of it. They ask him to slow down, but Bakugo stops them. There's no point. He's like a barbarian. He has to eat like that to maintain his strength every day. All of them turn to see that the food was already gone, but it was just there. That was as good as ever. All of them then ask him a question. How much was that capsule? Capsule Corp's, products are so expensive. Oh yeah, and isn't your hero suit made by them too? Talk about lucky they would sponsor you. Bakugo looks at Deku and begins laughing. You know you can't keep your secret forever, nerd. Yeah, you're right. Do you guys know a woman named Inko? They then turned to him with a shocked expression. Of course we do. She's the head at Capsule Corp. She used to be a pro hero as well. She's super famous and strong. Izuku begins to nod, but also tries to change the subject as they talk about the Brief's family, as they're known all around Japan for their capsules. And before he could change the subject, they question him. Well, it's my mom. The only reason no one knows is because I have my dad's name, Midoriya. All of them scream in shock except for Bakugo, but that was his initial reaction as well. Wait, so that means you're rich? Well, not exactly. My mom doesn't spoil me or anything like that. I don't even get an allowance now that I think about it. She wants to teach me to value things around me. Uraraka sighs, as Izuku turns to her, asking what's wrong. This is when she reveals her reason for wanting to become a pro hero. So wait, that's all? They watch as Izuku pulls out his own phone, calling someone, as they talk for a bit before he turns to her. Hey, what's a good number to reach your dad? She gets nervous but tells him anyway, out of just shock of the question. Izuku then hangs up the phone and sits back. Bakugo looks at him after finishing his own food. You just can't help yourself, can you? No, not really. Wait, what did you do? Oh, I just asked my mom if there were any spots open in any of the company's industries. Well, they're divisions, so maybe your dad could get a better job. She said she'd call him later on today, so she'll probably work it out for me. Uraraka hugs Izuku, thanking him. You know you didn't have to do that at all. I didn't, but I want you to become a pro hero for even more reasons than just that. Mina and Kirishima stared at Izuku, asking him more questions about his famous mom. If you guys really want to meet her, you can come with me after school. They accept the invite, and right after they do, alarms go off in the school. Many run in the direction, but Izuku stays seated with Bakugo. The others at the table would do so as well, until the lunchroom is empty and quiet. Hey Deku, how many do you sense? He closes his eyes and focuses on the people around him. Outside, they just seem to be regular people who made it into the school somehow. Wait a minute. What's that? Izuku tells him that there's someone with a powerful quirk that just vanished from the area somehow. Nah, he seemed crazy strong. The others ask how he's able to sense that, and Izuku explains, I'm able to sense the energy inside of other people. Normal citizens, or civilians, have this pure feeling in a way, in their hearts, and most villains have a sort of malice that I can always sense. It's usually small, but this time, it was insane. Maybe he's planning on something. Izuku stands up, stating he's going to tell one of the teachers. After he talks to the principal about what he sensed, he heads to the classroom where Ida was made the class president. Izuku's friends go to his house after school and hang out, as the next day the students are told to prepare for their field trip. All Might is said to join them as well, but he's late. He's occupied helping the city out. It seemed more and more villains were popping up, early in the morning too, which was strange. The police and pro heroes were on top of it, but it still seemed odd. Izuku could sense the villains all over the city while he was at school, but he paid no attention to it. After they suit up and get on the bus, this is where Mina asked him another question. Your quirk is pretty cool, but I still don't understand what it is. Others begin to listen in, wondering what his answer would be. My quirk? Well, it's myself, to put it simple. I'm kind of superhuman in a way. My family is able to harness the energy within our bodies and form it into attacks, and we could also make ourselves stronger by training. It's really hard for me to explain it without sounding too arrogant. No, it's fine. I'm the one who asked. They arrive to be greeted by the space hero number 13. He explains what it means to save a life and how important it is for heroes to know how to do that. They head into the facility, where he begins to lecture them more on their rescue missions that were about to proceed. Izuku jumps forward without warning and shoots down a large ki blast. Aizawa shouts, asking what he was doing, but also looks down, watching the villains scatter and try to avoid the blast. How did he know? Izuku tells them that they're under attack, so be prepared, as they'll have to call for backup. Aizawa tries his phone, but the communication lines are cut off. Open the door instead. Some of the students try, but they're locked somehow. Eraserhead has no other options but to fight the villains to protect his students. Since Izuku is the only one who can support him, he does so from long range while staying back with his class. A black smoke surrounds them, and Izuku jumps in trying to blast it away with Bakugo and Kirishima, but is still teleported above the flood zone. Luckily, he can fly, so he looks down into the water and sees Tsuyu jump out with Mineta onto a boat. Hey, are you guys okay? They nod, and Izuku holds down one of his hands, sensing the villains down below in the water. Big bang attack. The orb of energy launches down into the water and creates a whirlpool, pushing the villains together. The boat was also being pushed down, so Izuku yelled for them to grab onto his leg. They would do so, and now they're on the shore. I have a feeling the villains aren't here for us. They're only trying to distract us from what they really want. It must be All Might. Mineta tells Izuku there's no way that All Might could lose. But Izuku isn't sure. If the villains attacked us, they might have a plan to either kill him or weaken him if he is their target. The only thing our class can do is fight back. How can you say that? It's so scary. Wait, you two are scared of them? You're not? No. In fact, my blood is boiling just thinking about it. Izuku charges up his energy and bursts it into the air, flying to a different area. Just as the Nomu was going to grab Eraserhead, Izuku kicks it away. Nice. I made it just in time. Let's see how everyone else is holding up. He shouts to his classmates, who would respond, saying they're doing okay, if this is what they could call it. As now, they have a real fight on their hands. Izuku would close his eyes, also sensing the battles going on throughout the USJ. Well, I sense Bakugo that way, but I don't think I'll have to worry about him. The Nomu jumps back at Izuku, who catches its fist and slams his hand through it. He pulls it out, and then it's covered in blood, only to watch it regenerate a part of its body. Well, that's scary to say the least. Izuku punches it back and asks his homeroom teacher to fight with him. Aizawa would stand up, and Izuku states, "That thing's dangerous. Just how many people were sacrificed?" Aizawa, with a shocked expression, turns to Izuku. "What do you mean?" I hate to assume the worst, but it looks like the energy I'm feeling from that thing. It's more than one person in there. I don't think it's human, but it's definitely made up of them somehow. That would explain the multiple quirks. Still, I can't have you fighting if it's this dangerous. I know. That's why I chose to fight. I'm pretty pumped up. This will be my strongest foe yet. All we have to do is hold off until he arrives, right? Aizawa begrudgingly nods. Good. Then let's go take him on head on. Back me up when you can. Thanks. No, wait. He watches as Izuku clashes fists with the beast and punches it in the face. It turns its head slightly and tries to punch down at the boy and punches him into the ground. Izuku would dodge again, and he dodges a stomp. Aizawa then wraps his bandages around its neck, slamming it on his brain. Izuku jumps into the air and punches it down into a crater. He stands over the Nomu and sits there for a second as it doesn't move. Shigaraki then tries to grab Izuku, only to be blasted into the wall. Aizawa, he's the one I told the principal about. He let the reporters into the school. His energy is the exact same. The Nomu then headbutts Izuku, drawing blood from him, and punches him in the stomach. That's strange. His attacks got even stronger. Izuku swings his arm and the Nomu dodges it. This can't be good. Izuku is punched in his stomach so hard that his vision becomes blurred for a second, and he's slammed onto the ground by the beast. Aizawa tries to help him, but the same fate happens to him. Both teacher and student lay on the ground, wondering what they should do. In an instant, the Nomu is sent flying off by Izuku. He starts to stretch more and more, with Aizawa wondering how much energy his student really has. You know, I really wanted to save this for a different day, but who cares? I think I need that power in order to defeat him. The Nomu slowly begins walking towards him, but stops for a moment, watching Izuku's power build up. It shoots into the ceiling of the building where all of his classmates can see. Izuku continues to power up as Aizawa watches the boy somehow get taller and gain more muscle, with his teeth even sharper, and his eyes now glowing yellow, and his hair, it seemed to spike up in a way. The Nomu and Izuku now stand face to face. What is this power? He seems like a completely different person. Shigaraki wondered who this kid was. Not just that, but how was he able to fight the Nomu on par, a creature created to kill All Might? And he also seemed to act just like the hero, now that he thinks about it. No. Could this boy, could he be the future successor for All Might? This angered the villain even more than he already was. The Nomu would throw a punch that Izuku doesn't even care to dodge. The dust clears, and Izuku doesn't even have a bruise from the attack. The Nomu is sent flying just by one kick as Izuku vanishes. He appears behind the creature, placing his palm to its back. He shouts out loud enough for everyone to hear. This is the end. A blinding light covers the area. As it faded away, the Nomu was seen standing there, with an even bigger hole in its chest. It tried to regenerate again, but Izuku keeps hitting it. There's no time for it to focus on healing from such a fatal wound. Soon, Izuku started to lose control and ripped the Nomu apart. It regenerated once more, and Izuku, well, he lowered his stance. His power, it began to rise even further. In his mind, he would speak to himself. Yeah, this is it. I'll be able to reach the level of a Super Saiyan. Here it comes. The Nomu begins to charge back at Izuku, but the punch is stopped by a fashionably late All Might. He says his signature line before wasting no time and defeating the weakened creature. He sends it through the ceiling of the building with just one hand, and he raises that hand to the sky as the battle was truly over. Izuku was seen holding his head, trying to control his own anger as he focused more and more, and he began to calm himself down and shrink. Once he's calm, he sees Shigaraki going for All Might, who couldn't even sense him sneaking around. His rage exploded as he assumed the Akari state once again, and he punched Shigaraki's shoulder, dislocating it. The villain is teleported away, and the rest of the pros arrive soon after. All Might looks over to Izuku, who was still in that very same form. What an extraordinary power. In this state, he might even be able to use 40% of One for All. Izuku's power keeps rising as he focuses on his anger. Lightning strikes down around him, as cement would then surround the boy as he passes out from trying to transform. As this is when the USJ arc concludes.